And the Y'all Show is back. Welcome in to talk with a accent on all things Southern. I'm Jon Rawl, and we here at the Y'all Show broadcasting from the Dixie Cafe. Tickled to have you aboard. Again, if you want to get involved with the program, very easy to do that. Our number, 803-816-1170. You also can find us on our website, Yall.com. The Toccopola Storyteller is also here with us right now as we begin his weekly segment. And today we're very special. It's a very special treat for us because our storyteller is right here in the flesh with us for several hours, but we've got him now that we are able to talk to and actually watch at Yall.com. Our Toccopola Storyteller, Jerry Short. Hello, welcome back to the Y'all Show.
Hey, John. We've talked about some good stuff, and I know there's...
Hold up.
Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you.
We've talked about some really good stuff, and hey, we got lots more to talk about, so let's get started.
We will do that. Again, the big story headlines today is what's going on with Afghanistan, the President, Joe Biden, talking about it and more. And if people are just tuning in, we've talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. Jerry, it's not been a very good day to be an American.
It's been a bad day. It's been really a bad day. If you're a patriot, and you've got to live through what we're living through now and what we're afraid we may have to live through later, it's got to come home to you because history repeats itself. And we've kind of seen these things, excuse me, we've kind of seen these things happen before. You know, we talked earlier about Saigon after the Vietnam War, how we had to retreat and how we threw stuff into the sea. And the same thing's happening now in the desert, you know, and how the desert is. And, you know, I've trained in the desert. I've trained at National Training Center, NTC, in California. And it's a different world. It's a different way of, it's a different concept. And, you know, it's kind of what makes me wonder about what kind of officers we're actually turning out now because, you know, I got confidence in most of our troops. But it seems to me like our officers are playing too much politics and we're getting ourselves in situations where we can't win a war. We can win battles, but we can't win a war, and then eventually we have to pull out. Now, 20 years in a place the size of Afghanistan and the type people Afghanistan had to fight us. Just the other day I heard the president say that, hey, there's no problem. The Taliban, they only have 75,000 fighters, and we have trained, personally trained, 250,000 soldiers from Afghanistan, and they can hold this off, and they can hold them out of cities, and they can hold them out of provinces, but they're not doing that. And that's got people wondering, how can they take these towns so fast as the people we trained are retreating? You know, I've never seen a war where people just continually retreated, except we go back to the Gulf War maybe, and we saw Iran as they retreated back from Kuwait. You know, they took off, the Republican Army did, and they ran. We didn't follow them for some reason. And now the more I think about it, I think I understand why. I don't think we felt like we could get bogged down in a situation in the desert with Iran because we didn't do it here. You know, we rode camels in. We brought our stuff over there. We built embassies for $700 million. We did all kind of stuff. But has it helped? Obviously not if you're keeping up with what's happening today.
Jerry, I just got an email in about the author of a book that is about Afghanistan. Major General Jeffrey Schlossler authored the book, Marathon War, Leadership in Combat in Afghanistan, and he is out on a book tour. I'm going to try to get him on the Y'all Show if we're able to and have, again, the author of this book. And this is a man who knows a lot about Afghanistan. At one time, he was the commanding general of the 101st Airborne and Regional Command East, and his memoir of leadership in the chaos and fog of the Afghanistan war is out. Again, I'll try to get in touch with him. He's letting everybody know today, hey, I have this book. You need to talk to me. I would be real interested to hear what our leadership and our uniformed services are saying about the absolute embarrassment that's happening today in Afghanistan. Well,
I would also. And as you know, the Secretary of Defense is kind of been missing for 4 or 5 days.
Has he?
Yeah, hadn't heard a word. Just like at Camp David, our president was at Camp David on vacation.
And said he would get back with us on the Afghan war down the road. Well, I think he is doing it Monday, but it took him over
Monday.
2 days.
Yeah, Monday. What's going to happen between now? If we have to wait till next Monday, I wouldn't be surprised if we wouldn't have to wait till next Monday.
Yeah.
They'll have to have Secret Service people show him how to get to the podium, like they did the other day.
Did they really?
Yeah, he was going to leave the podium after he spoke. You know, he will not take questions.
See, I don't even watch this stuff, and that's a terrible thing to admit as a talk show host.
I don't watch a lot because you can't watch a lot. If you do, it'll just turn you off so bad that you realize that, hey, if something's not done, you know, where are we going? And that's frightening. It really is frightening. But he was leaving the podium this weekend, and he had spoke about something. I don't even know what he spoke about. I just saw that part. But he's got Secret Service people, obviously, that lead him around. And as he took a right to turn to go, he's supposed to take a right about 3 steps and then another right, and that takes him back into the White House, okay? Well, they got a Secret Service man standing on the grass out past the sidewalk, and he points for him to turn right and go in the court in the White House. He doesn't stop. He keeps coming, and the Secret Service guy keeps retreating, and he has to retreat all the way to the end of the bush row behind the podium, and then he turns him, and they turn him, and he goes around behind it and comes back to his right, and then in the back door of the White House. Now look, you know, if we've got that kind of leadership that can't get inside the White House and can't take questions and refuses to take questions, do we need him? And a question is even worse, do we need the vice president that we have today? Do we need Harris as our president? Look what she's done being in charge of the border.
True, but has she done something specifically to Afghanistan or about Afghanistan?
She hadn't done anything.
Okay.
And
well, Jerry, one of the reasons I want to talk about Afghanistan in this subject, in this block, is we can point fingers at the Biden administration. It's very easy to do that. There's some who are going to point. In fact, Joe Biden's pointing his finger at the Trump administration. But we don't want to leave out the Bush administration.
No, I can't leave Bush out. I mean, it's
now most of this is on Biden because
most
he's the
of
one
it
that
is the way he's retreating.
I mean,
you know, like I said earlier,
this is worse than Vietnam.
Yeah, the way I said earlier, he's taking the military out first, then the civilians out. Well, it should be the other way around. You know, I mean, if you don't have that kind of leadership, or whoever his advisors are, he's got some awful advisors. And who's behind all this? Do you go back and do you think Obama? I don't think Obama knew enough to be in charge of anything. He had advisors. Somebody was pushing the Obama administration. Who was that? Who's doing this? You know, he don't know. Our president today doesn't know.
Okay.
He's just following steps, I think.
Jerry, when America first went over there, and it wasn't just Afghanistan. It's been in other countries where we've been, let's be honest, the word the other side likes to use is imperialist.
That's right.
We've been over there putting our stamp on things as a country, trying to be the do-gooders. And these are parts of the world where, frankly, they're not like North America. They are a million years apart from where we are, and they will always be behind us. It's not our job to go in there and make these places catch up with the 21st century.
You can't make a democracy out of some communistic, socialist thinking.
Well, this is not even communism or socialism. This is
beyond.
This is all religious in nature.
Yeah, it is.
And who are we to say that they have to go in and do things the way a Judeo-Christian society?
We're not a nation builder. You know, if we have a war, the purpose of a war is to win it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have collateral, damage, and you're going to have all kind of damage, and you're going to lose people, and they're going to lose people. But the bottom line is win the war and come home. The Marshall Plan was already used, and it may have worked for dang 50 years. I don't know, but this deal I heard today that we spent more money in Afghanistan than we did in all of the Marshall Plan. Now, you're thinking
that's hard to believe.
It is hard to believe. I don't know if it's using today's currency or using just flat dollar for dollar. If you're using dollar for dollar, I can certainly see it. But, 1/700 $700 million embassy in Pakistan of all places. I mean, in Afghanistan of all places. I mean, $700 million. Why do you need something like that there? And then we did evacuate from the roof, where he said we wouldn't do that like we did in Saigon. He made that statement in July.
Jerry, last night I was tuning in and I heard the same excuse or patting America on the back that I heard when Americans first went into Kabul and places like that. We're giving all these freedoms to women. We're teaching women education and we're helping out women so much by doing these. The great America comes in and saves the women.
That's right.
Again, these people live in a different millennium. These people don't care about women's equality, and they likely never will. I don't think the women, for the most part, care. You've got always exceptions, but they use their justification from a religious standpoint. Right. And who are we to go in there in the world that we live in this country, which I'd say religion is trending downward in this country, to try to go into a place and tell them, well, y'all need to let women vote. I mean, that was the big thing. Women got to vote in Iraq. They got to vote in Afghanistan. Right. And now every woman that voted is probably going to be killed.
They got to take their burqas off.
They're probably going to get beheaded.
They took their burqas off. They was Americanized sort of. So with that going, I tell you what worries me as much as anything is we started this stuff 20 years ago. Okay, a lot of these women weren't even born when we started this. They don't know that old school style that they're going to be forced to do. And you know what's coming at them? They have no idea. A lot of them.
I would say death is likely coming to them.
I know it. And that really worries you when you think that they don't have a clue what the Taliban has in store for them. And they've been trying to get out of the country. You know, if you saw people hanging on those C-17s trying to get out. But you can't get out. We can't get them all out. No, we couldn't get them out of Vietnam.
I mean, it doesn't help that Kabul is sandwiched well in the borders of that country. It's a mountainous country. They're trapped. And there's nothing they can do, I think our journalists, our CNNs of the world that are over there, they're going to get killed, in my opinion.
I heard a woman this morning early that was in a isolated area that they wouldn't disclose where she was located. She reported from because she was scared. If she got out on the street, it was a lady with one of one of the new networks, and they had to hide her out for her to report back to us what was happening outside. Now, how do you get her out? How do you get out if all the military's gone? If the military's gone and she's just thrown in the middle of everybody, she better put a burqa on and try to blend in. And then how do you blend in with what they're going to be doing to them? Women are the ones that are really going to pay for this. And it's not their fault. Like I said, a lot of them weren't even born when we started trying to change that country over there and training the Afghanistan soldiers.
And don't forget, here on the Y'all Show, we are pro-women and pro-women in America. But again, in a large part of the world, not just Afghanistan, there are large portions of the world where it is not equal. In fact, this week, we just told you, we're celebrating the 101st year of this country of women not being equal.
Suffrage,
but just being allowed to vote. That's only a 101-year-old thing here in what's considered to be the most free and liberal type country in the world. So to go to places where they don't even hardly know anything about a place called America and try to force our values on them, they're mad. And they're going to take it out on the people who went along with it in Afghanistan. And I hate to say it, they're likely going to try to get revenge part 2 like they did back in 2001 against this country. It's not going to be a good thing.
This country's easy to infiltrate now coming in from the southern border. I mean, I've heard today too that Afghanistanians are maybe coming that route, that path, coming from Central America, South America, coming in.
Not
the ones we want to come.
Okay.
But the other bunch.
And we've talked about that before, and even if it's just one, that's one too many.
That's one can do a lot of damage. One bombing on some bridge across the Mississippi River can shut commerce down for a long time.
And they have a lot of reasons, Jerry, to be very upset. I would say more upset now than they were 20 years ago.
Oh, I think they are, because I think I mentioned to you about coming in on the camels, and that offended them. It was like we were making fun of them. And we rode their camels in to chase them back up into the mountains.
In the early days of the war.
Immediately, you know, the start of the war. We had Green Beret that got on camels and rode camels in. And, you know, I had a guy that was a Green Beret friend of mine told me that he had heard that they had said they would get even for that, you know. So, you know, you've just got so many things that are on the table now. You know, just think about what's going on in this administration. How many things they're doing that are wrong, and how many things are going wrong, and how many things are going bad. I mean, it's not just Afghanistan. I know we're talking Afghanistan. We need to be talking Afghanistan because that's getting ready to blow up in our face if we don't do something. Because we can't send, what do you say, sending 5,000 troops back
where are they going to go?
What are they going to do when they get in there? What's 5,000 more troops going to do when they get in there?
Well, what's 5,000 going to be compared to
100,000
that are all right there?
As they grow and grow and grow.
I mean, the Taliban doesn't need to be in the mountains. They used to hide in caves, remember? Now they have the whole country.
Well, I mean,
except maybe the airport, and that's fading fast.
Alexander the Great he couldn't defeat them. Hannibal couldn't defeat them. The Russians couldn't defeat them. Yeah. You know, and here we are over here thinking if we leave, it's changed all of a sudden. It don't work that way.
Yeah. We're talking with our Toccopola storyteller, Jerry Short. This is Y'all Talk with a Southern accent. We will be right back. Stay tuned. We will switch over from talking about the hell that is Afghanistan to the heck that people like Jerry Short have had to endure through the years when they've had a daughter in a sorority. That's coming up right after the break here on Talk with a Southern Accent. And we'll have that plus your feedback, 803-816-1170. More of the show that's all about the South is coming right up. We're back. We're back on Talk with a Southern Accent. I'm Jon Rawl, and we are Y'all and powered by Yall.com, the South's home page. If you want to get in touch with us, you're definitely welcome. Operator standing by, 803-816-1170. Our Toccopola storyteller, Jerry Short, on with us for just a handful more minutes on our visual here as we are broadcasting at Yall.com. You can watch it. You can also find us in podcast form and various options. And Jerry, did you have any idea that Y'all can be listened to around the world? We're on Spotify. We're on the Apple Podcast app. We're on the TuneIn app. We're on the Stitcher app. And we're right there at Yall.com. Did you realize we were so many places?
Well, I had thought about that, but you may have to give me some kind of sedative if I start thinking about being all around the world with what I sound like coming out of the fields of Toccopola.
Toccopola is where Jerry is. And
anyway, it's good that you're heard, because you're getting the word out, and I think you get some conservative word out, and you get the South's word out, and heck, John, that needs to be heard worldwide.
Well, that's what we're working on, Jerry Short. Now, I was dumb when I was a youngster, Jerry, and I did not go to a college that had a Greek life. I was not in a fraternity, and I was not in a sorority either. And so I missed out on that fun. But a lot of people who go to college are still in a fraternity or sorority. And you are a fella who have put a daughter through one of the SEC member institutions' Greek system. And one reason I'm talking about this here on the Y'all Show today is what's going on that you've heard of some of these colleges in recent years to try to diversify and to try to maintain their enrollment. Many of these SEC or large schools push back rush. They did that to keep the students enrolled past when they used to do it before school started.
Well, they used to do it 2 weeks before school started. You know, you would have rush week, and then you would be voted on, and then you would be selected, or you would select. You had 3 choices after you went to all the sororities, you know. And so they had rush week last week at University of Mississippi, and I know
Alabama's doing it too, I think.
Alabama did also. And
the machine.
I like to ride through and just watch how they act, because all the sororities, if you get where you know them, if you know Chios or Tri-Delts or KDs or whatever you know, they all do it a little bit different. They all, my daughter was rush chairman of one of them, and she brought all the Recs home one time in the summer before.
That would be recommendations.
See, I
don't even know.
That they had to be scattered. Yeah, they had to be, it was like a application for President of the United States. You had to read them, and they'd go over them. Well, I'd read thousands of them. Well, they'd be from all over the South, and we'd read them and go over them and read them and go over them. But anyway, when you get up there, and if you don't get in the Greek world, you're almost at some colleges. Some colleges take it a lot more serious than others. Some colleges go on with the Greek world and go on, and it's okay. But some, now, it's great networking. I'll give them credit for that. You can always find a job, usually, by some sorority sister or brother that has a good job, that'll locate a job for you when you get out of school. And that has helped my kids tremendously. But that would be as far as I'd go, because it gets pretty expensive. And I tell you, the girls get where, they get in their head before, if you're not a legacy meaning, hey, your mother, your aunt, or someone really close, and you got to have a lot of recommendations from these people. They were, say, a KD or a Tri-Delt or a Chio. Well, one of the sororities may be a little upscale compared to the other one. So you go to there, and the first day you go, you say you go 4 days before they decide. You go one day and they give you ice water. So you drink ice water that day, and then you make the round and they talk to you a little bit. Then you go another day, and the next day it may be tea or something. Then the next day you go, and it may be a little upscale, Then you have to dress upscale a little bit. But I remember my daughter wanted to go. She didn't want to be in the one that was the most upscale one. So she was trying to make it to the third.
I think the statute of limitations are up. Which one would that have been at the time?
Chio.
Chio was upscale?
It was the most upscale one at that university. So she wanted to make
upscale, snobby, maybe?
Well, a little bit, maybe. So
be wordy.
But once you're in there, it's not that way, because I lived in the house that she was. But anyway, she wanted to make the third day. But they cut her. You go check the bulletin board at night to see which ones you can come back to the third day, the fourth day.
Yeah.
Well, she was dropped the second day. She wanted to drop them the third day. She was going to drop them anyway. But she wanted to get to the third day, but she didn't. But she got one of the good ones that she wanted. And as a matter of fact, she was in it with the CEO of FedEx and the majority speaker of the House at the time. His daughter was one of hers. And I would go watch him for Derby Day. They had practice for Derby Day, where they put on a play and they do all this stuff. And I'd go teach them a little history at night, get them all gathered around. You can't live in a sorority house the first year. Then they can only take so many each year to each sorority. So it gets to the point where, hey, you're either in or you're out. And if you're in that sorority, some of the others may not even like you if in one of theirs. And they all got their own color, like say Trident was green, and they'd wear green stuff, And if you were around campus in intramural sports or something like that, and if you better have green on if you was a Trident. I'm just using that as an example, because I happen to remember that color. But it's pretty costly also, and they have a lot of functions that are really upscale. And I tell you, they've gotten in a race now at this university. They're tearing the house that was my daughter's house. It was a mansion, I thought. Well, they bulldozed it down and they built one about 5 times that good. I think they've got a race to see who can have the best sorority or fraternity house on campus. And they're all antebellum homes that look like Oak Alley in Louisiana. You've seen the movies. Yep. They all look similar to that. So, that they're gonna price themselves out of existence. It looks to me like if.
Speaking of price, that's one reason I got you on here. So what would it, I know it's been a few years, but it was pretty expensive to have a daughter in a sorority?
Well, yeah, and one of the main things, too, you can't wear, like she would say, well, we got a ball game Wednesday, and I'll say, okay, or we got a ball game Friday. And I mean, not Wednesday, this Saturday, and the next Saturday. And I'd say, okay, good. She said, well, Daddy, I need another dress. I said, well, what's wrong with the dress you wore game 1? And she'd say, oh, I can't wear the same dress twice. So, they don't give those kind of dresses away. So, I mean, that's just a small amount. But then, they have a lot of parties. And you have to, at this particular university, if you're not in the Greek world, you almost don't exist. My son, he went before her, 4 years before her, and he didn't like the fraternity life too much. And he got out and, of course, he went on and graduated and left. But he says, Daddy, if you're not in the Greek world up there, don't go. I love the place, but I love sports, blah, blah, blah. But it's awful. You get treated awful if you're not in the Greek world. And as fraternities. And I think they're having theirs this week.
Okay.
So,
well, again, one of the reasons we're bringing this up here on Talk with a Southern Accent is you mentioned that SEC school that you've been talking about. There's a story out this week on a couple of different news outlets about the University of Alabama and their sorority recruitment, which is either just finished or is still underway. But one article from Yahoo was, this was the year we all became obsessed with Alabama Rush. And part of that is because a lot of the sororities are using TikTok videos in their recruitment. And it's the door stack, if you know what that is.
Yeah, I watch them. They got tents out front, and they serve them there, and then they give them. They all go around same bag, same literature.
But typical, as much as it's nice to promote sororities here on the Y'all Show and promote the South, and sororities and fraternities are part of the South's history. A lot of them were formed in the South. Yeah. There's one article from a website called Mashable that I know you're just dying to get a hold of this article.
Oh, I am.
Alabama Rush TikToks are huge, but they also remind us of sororities' racist, elitist culture.
Now they are. They do have kind of that reputation.
Yeah.
Before I stutter too long.
Yeah.
They do have that kind of reputation.
Yeah.
But I found it to be, all the girls that was in her sorority, I loved every one of them.
Did she have an integrated sorority?
No. And
did she have a elitist sorority?
They didn't show it to me.
Okay. All right.
But and they really, I don't think, really showed it to a lot of them. But they are all well-educated people, and they all have a network that they can find each other positions, or whatever. And they usually have a job coming out of college, but it's pretty expensive. You have to, you got dues at the house. You got food. You got all that kind of stuff. And they eat really well, and they have house mothers, and they have butlers, and they have those type of things. They did then. I'm talking the 90s. I think she was Rush chairman in 94 of this one I'm talking about. But, and that was with some high dollar. I know we had a luncheon after a ball game. I was sitting between the CEO of FedEx and the majority speaker of the Senate, and I'm thinking
The U.S. Senate.
U.S. Senate, and say, hey, a guy from Toccopola has zero business here.
That is absolutely true. And that guy from Toccopola is Jerry Short, and he is with us on the Y'all Show. Thank you for stopping by. Great to catch up with you here with your Toccopola Storyteller
Enjoyed
report.
it, John.
We're not done with you, though.
Oh, no,
if
I'm
you're
staying.
catching us on radio, you will continue to be enjoying Jerry Short for the next hour plus. We've got one more hour to go, but we also have a report coming up next from the great Melissa Rhodes. Melissa filing a Southern accent on Southern food that we definitely want to check out. But again, for all of you going through rush across the South, best of luck, and we'll be rooting you on, and we'll be screaming going down the street when we get our right fraternity or sorority.
Let's rush on in there.
Rush on in there. Thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome.
More of the show all about the South continues right after this.